South Africa is undergoing a period of soul-searching over arguments to decriminalise sex work. As recently as July, Deputy Police Minister Bongani Mkongi told the 22nd World AIDS Conference in Amsterdam that he favoured full decriminalisation of sex work. In 2015, the South African Law Reform Commission undertook a study into fragmented legislative framework that currently regulates adult prostitution. It found that the debate on decriminalisation of sex work was complicated by the global economic downturn, unemployment, crippling poverty and violence, amongst others. The questions, however, remain whether decriminalising sex work can eradicate the complex range of problems afflicting those who end up participating in illegal sex work. Well, to discuss the decriminalisation of sex work, I'm joined in studio by cultural expert Refilwe Wakuno, Sisonke Movement's Katleho Rasibidze, and ACDP's Linda Yates. A very good evening to you all, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Katleho, let me start with you. Should sex work be decriminalised completely or partially or not at all?
I think it's best, we decriminalize sex work 100%, including, breaking of the old Sexual Offences Act that, criminalizes the buying, the selling, willing living out of the profits, including, the selling of sex. And it's best that, these laws, remember, were formed during the colonized era, and that this is 2018, and they are about 61-year-old laws that still governs, especially female black, because you might not find that, mostly people that are being harassed by these laws are female black, and not only the culture and of our black people, a female black was not that well person to be much learned or to be put into a system that it will cater for. And we find lots of the police are using that in order to harass sex workers. And we find that those laws were formed under the Morality Act laws. The laws were saying, like, if you're a white person, you cannot marry a black person. And then if you can't do abortion, a man cannot sleep with another man anally. Those are the laws that were formed by then, by the colonizers. And throughout the years, LGBT has been decriminalized. Abortion is legal in the country, but you still find laws that oppresses a black female. That's why we say that we're pushing for a total decriminalization. I remember when I'm making that statement at the international conference, the deputy minister was in the room, and upon that, that's when he mentioned the statement that he fully, support the call for decriminalization of sex work. And not only him, this week on Tuesday, POPRU attended their 28th anniversary, where POPRU, also the president of POPRU, was saying that, they definitely support the total call for decriminalization of sex work. Also, the South African National AIDS Council, they've supported throughout the years by saying that we have moved from whereby as a country by calling people prostitute, now recognizing people based on their rights and based on their human dignity. If I feel like I am a sex worker and I'm a profession, then I've got the right to trade, I've got the right to choose, as long as I'm adult and there's a consent and it's sexy.
And do you also think that it should be decriminalized?
I don't think so. I don't think it should be decriminalized. Look, I hear what my colleague here is saying, and I think we need to respect some of the views that he echoed, to say the moral act need to be looked into. I agree with that. But the issue of legalizing sex workers, I don't think is really proper. When I was talking with a few of my family members, the sister, the mothers, I engaged them on this issue, what their take is, and cut the long story short is that their feelings that it's just immorally wrong to, have people engaging in activities of saying, I'm a sex worker. I mean, honestly speaking, I don't think there's any woman who would then kiss someone and say, this child is brewed or born to be a sex worker. It doesn't feel good. Ask any one-on-one speaking to a woman will tell you, okay, I understand the circumstances and many other things. We can look at other ways of avoiding question of police who are, not treating other human beings as human based on the issue they're trying to make a living out of it. We can look at those issues. But to say let's legalize it, for me, no.
Linda, what's your take?
The ACDP does not believe in decriminalizing prostitution. We don't talk about sex work because work is something that brings dignity. You have a career, it gives you a future, and that is just a very sad, tragic lifestyle. It's about exploitation of the vulnerable, actually. And if you have a heart, you can't go downtown Joburg, probably this time of the night, there's certain streets where you can go and you can see those women. Those are beautiful human beings who have talents, who have hearts, who have minds, who have bodies, who have souls, but it's only their body that's being sold, and that is really tragic. We do believe that there should be state-assisted exit programs. There have been studies done in 9 different countries, including our own, and 89% of those caught in this very tragic lifestyle want out. But they're trapped, they're stuck. So I think we need to do everything we can to help those people out, especially the women, because there are quite a few reasons. It encourages drugs. The so-called sell-by date is 25. 25. I mean, what other career do you have where it's over at 25? This is not a career. It's not work. And we think it's more about the money that is being made out of these poor, poor women, and even, I have to say, children, because the demand is for younger and younger, even 9 or 10 years old.
But Linda,
which is tragic.
Well, but before you actually reply to Linda, I've got a survivalist of prostitution on the phone line, Griselda Grootboom. Griselda, very good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Now, you survived this and you were forced into it. So what is your take, having survived this forceful sort of situation, on decriminalizing it?
Oh, thank you so much for having me once more. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. You can continue.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. You know, again, the discussion is on women, you know, and I think the focus has been moved from the men. And as I was saying just recently at the UNISA event, the people that watch porn is men, the people that buy women is men, the people who rape young kids is men, sex trafficking movements that are men, criminalized organizations. And for me, I just feel the research done on prostitution are not, you know, a sort of, it was not researched properly. It's just, once again, pimps paying people to go out there and find another way of doing this work and this criminality against women's bodies. And I just feel they need to focus on the men and continue to, my position as a survivor is continue criminalization, but not to the females, to the men, because they are the one buying, they are the one selling. They go and traffic young girls to become a prostitute. It is never by choice. The only time you find choice if you are bound and you're stuck under substance abuse and drugs. And we cannot, as a country, we haven't even dealt with the issue of children being sexually molested, let alone women and mothers and widows that are being raped by men. We don't even know how to deal with those cases. We don't even know how to deal with those victims. And here we bring another sexual exploitation on them. And I just think, for me as a survivor, I was there for a long time. I was trafficked by a best friend, and for 2 weeks they had to groom me by violating my body, feeding my body with drugs, and verbally abusing me and letting to know what my value is. And that was only in a way of violation. They would beat me up, give me drugs, forcefully do sexual things on me. And today I'm still living those scars. So I'm wondering, in this work that they keep on saying it is work that is developed under a work constitution, Labor Department, what are the benefits for the female and what are not the benefits? Because it feels like men are still going to get away with it. Men, I cannot understand how. The times I was in it, it was called the escort. Even though that word, yes, it had some dignity in it, but still we were driven by a pimp. Still we were driven by an organized brothel system that is run by men. The building belongs to a person that sits probably somewhere in a high level of CEO. The house itself is run by a co-worker of, you know, that's working somewhere. So it's organized crime of another modern day slavery upon women. So for me, my position personally as Griselda Grootboom and the founder of Survivor Exit Foundation, doing advocacy and fighting for a law on all levels for women in Africa and South Africa, because we have the greatest constitution, but we don't have the greatest implementation of that constitution. So I'm very worried of individuals that have never worn heels and stood in a corner for hours and get a client that only is going to pay you 100 Rand to have a sexual exploitation interaction with you. And and then leave you violently on the streets. I'm very concerned of what kind of structure they're going to be putting in this particular work, and I don't believe it's work. I don't believe an 18-year-old rural girl needs to decide at grade 12, I don't want education because there's a certain work that the government has developed, and that is, again, lay on your back, woman, because that's the only thing that you are valid for. And I think we are forgetting the history of sex slavery. It comes from where I come from. Sarki Bartman, she was exploited just for her body. They put her in a box and let her stand naked so men can gaze on it. How do we still feel about morals like that? And I'm saddened by the harvest of generation that's going. Our young girls are only sexually active with older men. And older men are feeling okay with this, and then they call themselves blesser and think it's okay. And younger men in rural areas are raping older women. And here we are saying to the normal person that don't even understand policies and laws that, listen, you can go ahead and buy a 16-year-old because it's a work. Because where we are as a country right now with sexual exploitation of women's bodies, trust you me, it's so close to home that even you as an individual advocating for this law, in your neighborhood, a 16-year-old is being sold. We are fighting globally as a movement saying, no. Under marriages for kids underage is wrong. But we are not saying that the same thing that's exploiting young people and women in Africa is also wrong. So men are asking me, but Griselda, you're busy fighting here under marriages, Ukutwala and stuff like that. What's the difference? Because you're telling me, yes, 18-year-old can stand on the street and I can sell her, but you're telling me in the courtroom I cannot marry her. Who are we confusing? And what are men thinking how stupid we are? And for me, as a survivor, it's extremely emotional.
Griselda, let's just get to engage some of the guests that we do have in studio here. We are going to be running out of time soon. Now, she mentioned that she believes that it should be decriminalized, but specifically for the men who are buying, because they enable people to steal and traffic, because she was trafficked by a friend and held hostage and groomed for that. So that is her perspective, having had that experience of being on the other side, but not even by choice. So for her, it wasn't a matter of choice.
To Griselda for Boma's attention. The results of what happened to Griselda are the pure benefits of what criminalization does to the system. If only sex work was decriminalized, people like Griselda Grootboom were able to say, officer, I was exploited, there are child exploitations that are taking place, I've been raped. But because of criminalization, sex work cannot even come and report such things. And I'm sorry that she has to go through that. And again, we're not here to speak about child exploitation or drugs, because each time when you raise the word sex work, people think that you'll be speaking about drugs and exploitation and trafficking. Right here in South Africa, people have been trafficked to do hair salons in Durban, being trafficked to do construction work in Mpumalanga. So each time when you mention sex work, people think exploitation, drugs. We shouldn't be talking about that. We're talking adults above age that says it's my body. I offer sexual services and I'm charging for it, and there's a consent, because as I said initially, consent is sexy. But because of the law reform, remember in 2007, that's when now they amended the law. They say now the Moreki needs to be arrested, whereby like the seller of sex needs to be arrested. Whereas all along there's only the buyer of sex needs to be arrested, but all along there's only the female that who's the seller, After that, the law reform still we haven't had much meaningful engagement with, because of we feel like, for example, I'll just make an example. If in 2018, March, and the Women Multisectoral Caucuses in Parliament, 52 of the women themselves, they're voting that we need to decriminalize this act. Remember, I want to teach you South Africa out there, including my guest here. Sex workers are not criminalized. The act on its own, sex work, it's criminalized. So it's hard for the police to prove that indeed sex work occurred, because they need to catch you in the act. There must be a witness and a transaction for sex work to be actually successfully prosecuted in court. So our police only harasses the sex worker herself. So that's when the problem is. So let's decriminalize all of this, then do the proper public consultations where sex workers are being consulted on how to regulate. Then if it needs to be, then we put in the legislative into it.
Refilwe, should we have public hearings on this matter so that everyone can have their issues ventilated before the government decides whether to amend laws or not?
I don't know whether I'll be able to answer you based on what you're saying, but I'm disturbed by my colleague here. I said it earlier on that we need to look at the police officers who are not doing justice to the sex workers. I don't know whether I'm not audible or he's having a problem with hearing, you know, and when he says he's going to educate us on the issues, the sex workers and stuff like that. Look, we are a country that has an obligation to create morals into our society.
Abortion is not moral.
No,
allow him to answer.
Okay.
We listen to you, Katlego.
Which means LGBT also is part of the moral.
Allow Refilwe to answer as well. We gave you a chance. We were listening to you. It's Refilwe's turn to speak. Let's respect one another. Let us respect one another on this panel.
When you talk, we listen. When you talk, we listen. Why can't you listen? Do you have a problem? Listening skills?
No, I don't have a problem.
Refilwe, allow him to answer. You will get your opportunity.
Okay, answer.
Okay. I think as a country, we have a responsibility to bring the moral upright, you know. And like I've stated before, I don't think there's any woman who brings the child into this world and say, 5 years, 15 years later, I'm looking my child to being a prostitute. For me, it doesn't work. I don't know, from the world that I come from. Now, police officer, the money that would be used should train police of being more sensitive, put strict laws on the police who come across such thing and pass bills that are right to deal with police violence or about treating people who are sex workers. I don't think there's anyone who wants to engage. You know, I think women, like I've said, I've engaged with my sisters, my aunts, whatsoever. They will tell you as women, they don't feel pride to understand, or I've engaged in simple relationships of more than 20 men. It doesn't sit well with them, you know. And then we're going to there want to say, let's criminalize and do this. There we are, guy, when those people into it.
So, Linda, do you think that maybe a focus should be put on the police force then to educate them not to be harassing sex workers that get violated? Because some of the sex workers actually get killed during the act of their work.
That is always wrong. Murder is always wrong. Nobody deserves to be murdered. And yes, there are many things the police need to do better. But one of the things they can't do is help our situation of family values. Now, ACDP, we're a family values party. And if you decriminalise prostitution, there is no law or policy or anything else that government can put in place that can protect our families from the damage that will cause. Already, 4 out of 10 marriages don't make the 10th anniversary. That's 10 years. You can think, even if the child was born, the first child was born, that child is not even 10, and his parents already, or his or her parents already splitting up.
And in terms of the exit program that you mentioned earlier on, yes. Is ACDP actually doing something to bring that to pass?
Well, we were very involved in getting the law against human trafficking passed. We pushed for that very hard. And yes, I believe we are definitely in favor of a state-assisted exit program because we have compassion for those people who've been caught up in these things. And human trafficking has a lot of very innocent and very sad victims as well. So it needs to be done.
Just in 1.5 minutes, Griselda, a word of caution to people out there. How can they avoid getting into a situation that you got into? And just your closing statements on this matter.
I would really just advise women and girls, you know, they've already highlighted it in media that they're scared to jog, they're scared to do things. And, you know, I respect the women that are in the industry and still there, and some of them still cry for exit programs that are not developed yet, as much as they hear the words on the ground saying there's a possibility for a law. But a lot of women saying, we would like to exit. There's women I still know that still in the industry saying, can there be an exit program that's for me in prostitution that I have done, you know, so I really advise my sisters that are still in it and women and young girls that, you know what, I don't think it is the most best work that, you know, certain lobby movements are saying it is. And then I also respect certain lobby movements that uses it besides female gender saying this is, because in Norway you get the LGBTI and you get them, you know, gay rights saying we want sex rights, and that language is so clear according to gender. And here in our country we haven't even brought the debate of decriminalization to society to partake in it, you know, our victims, and what are the traffic survivors are saying, what are the prostitution survivors are saying. We haven't brought rural communities, we haven't brought Muslim communities, we haven't consulted all of society. This voice is only coming one-sided from a movement that probably did a research and that is it. But now that the voices that comes out of this, that have done exit program and knows the experience saying, no, but this cannot work. those voices have not heard. Those communities have not heard. And I really think it's time for government to start that dialogue on the ground and see what societies and other moral religion bodies are saying. Because not just one side of the country saying this is a particular thing and a particular law that can work. Totally understand that respect according to the Constitution. But what are the other side? What are the survivors? What are people and women saying that we don't agree on it, although poverty has given me this choice, but I'd like to have an exit program? When do those women come out? Why are they being groomed by reproductive health movements and told, no, we have a condom for you? So my advice to the women and to girls out there thinking and hearing these media platforms always occurring, saying to them there could be a particular life-changing law for them and saying it's like, no, I don't agree. Sorry, as a survivor, I do not agree, and my position will remain on criminalization and criminalize the men that die. The criminalization law should focus on the demand of this particular prostitution that's taking place. So I would advise my Justice Department, advise John Jeffries also to come forward and speak the truth from his side. Besides wearing a Justice Department hat, what does he think as a man and father? You know, because he's dialoguing with us, but he doesn't say as a man what does he would he enjoy the fact that he sees women 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock on the street? Does he think that kind of law is workable according to him? So I really advise society, partake and don't be afraid. Say that you agree or don't agree. I would really advise, especially society out there, there are survivors of prostitution that do not agree of this law. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Griselda, and to my esteemed panelists here in studio. The conversation does continue online, so share your thoughts with us. Our Twitter handle is @AfroWorldView. Time now for a quick weather break. We're back with more news after that.